that? Okay folks, welcome to week 5 of Ray's Tech Tips. Today we're going to be talking about, tell them, Ray.
Flippers, how to rebuild them.
Okay.
What parts are needed? New parts.
Do you have parts?
Yes.
Show us some parts, would you?
New parts.
Well, okay, we've seen these.
Okay, I guess we're going to be rebuilding valleys. Several drawers of coils. These happen to be the valley coils. And we're going to need 11 629s, which is what goes in the Terminator 2 we're rebuilding. These are more coils for working devices like slingshots, out holes, and ball kickers and such. These are mostly Valley Williams. Early and late.
I saw some Capcoms in there.
Yep. Very few. These are early Williams and Gottliebs. Here getting into some Daddy's flipper coils. These are just Gottlieb coils, crossover charts.
My lord, how often do you encounter a coil that you don't stock?
Not too often. I keep adding to it. You have to have them, coils. Coils get exercised as they get used, and the varnish windings you see here shrink and contract, shrink and expand, and then that rubs off the varnish, the shellac. And contrary to belief, these are not bare wires, and they have a coating on them. As these things get used, they expand and contract, and then it rubs its own coil.
I mean, shorts.
Yes, and then the ohms, which are readings across the coils here. This is a dual coil. That's why there's 3 terminals. There's a pair of large ones for the power stroke of the flipper, and then there's a thin one, and then it goes to the middle pole for your hold. So there's 2 different windings in here.
And of course, it won't generally fail all of a sudden. It'll fail slowly, and
right.
It'll just lose performance.
Yeah, you definitely lose performance, and then eventually
you'll get a dead short at some point.
Yeah, you'll blow a fuse or ruin a flipper control board. Coils are cheap. They're under 20 bucks a piece. Most of them are even under $15 a piece. Average machine takes 2. It's good assurance. As these age, the ohmage goes down from new, which is around 4.5, 5 ohms, down to 2 and 3 ohms. And as soon as you get below 2, you're going to have problems.
Okay.
These are flipper parts for repairs that just need a broken part, that don't need a rebuild. Suppose you had a fairly new link and you just had the connecting bracket break. I carry individual parts.
But more often than not, you do full rebuilds because it's all shot.
Yeah, because nobody really... these are all rebuild kits. You get one of these for each rebuild kit. And I threw a lot out. I don't have any room anymore, but there must be 100 of these.
What size is that? I'm going to put those on eBay. Lot of 150 Allen keys size, whatever size that is.
I'm not sure. I think it's 5/16. Anyway, there's more flipper parts up here. Individual parts, sleeves, hubs. New hardware, because the hardware is always
wrong.
Yeah. And then there's some roll pins for individual repair, and then you got Valley and Gottlieb use these springs to take up the play between the coil and the end stop on some of their machines. Williams never did that. They machined it and made it close enough they didn't use that. Gottlieb did not, neither did the early Valleys. If you don't put that in, the coil bangs around back and forth.
Lose power.
Sloppy, you lose power. Any play in any of that linkage at all, any movement, other than what is there to make it pivot or go straight, is going to take power away from the flipper.
Okay, well, we're doing a full rebuild here, I'm assuming, based on the machine that I saw.
And again, here's rebuild kits from here down for Daddy East Valley Williams. The Gottliebs I'll show you back there. And we're going to be doing a WPC, so These are the individual kits I get. There's drawers full of each one does a game.
Or a pair.
Up to flipper,
Right.
pair of flippers. And this particular one is for these games, Williams and Bally.
Looks like a Steve Young pinball resource kit.
Yeah. And this,
Flip 05, okay.
yeah, that's Williams Flip 05 kit. And this is 1980 through 91. We're doing a
T2.
Terminator 2, so that is a 91 game. This would be the flipper kit for it.
Okay.
And then, these are Flip 05s. This is a Marco kit. And this would be for the same thing as the Williams. Is offered by Pinball Resource. This is Flip 01. This fits the old stuff. Mostly EMs here, although it comes into some solid states the last 2 years or so here. 67 through December 79. And you can see the difference. They're using the fiber metal link instead of plastic. Different constructed kit. The end stops are different. The hubs are different. They're longer out at the end. There's differences. You can't cross one over to the other. And then for the later
but you
games,
can. I've seen parts from 80 different types of kits in these things.
Yeah, we'll see that when we go inside.
Flip 06 modern.
Yeah, so basically these kits are, 1, 5, and 6 covers all the machines. There is no 3 or 4, by the way.
Okay.
This will cover from 92, where that leaves off, to 99, last pin made, basically. Cactus Canyon, Monster Bash, through there.
Okay. What about the new Sterns? Are they doing kits for those as well, or?
Yeah. New Sterns. Our Data East Sterns. Segas are in here. I have extra plates because sometimes screws break off in these. They tend to, for some reason, Sega and Stern was Loctite in these quite a bit. And when you go to take anything off, even a hub, you break off screws.
And of course, you can fix that, but not very well in the field.
Right. These are the kits offered by Marco, and these will rebuild Data East Segas. And this was when they used the plastic thing as end of stroke trip.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is the solid metal link they had. You can see it's billet steel.
Neat.
Instead of stamped bent over steel. Everybody had a different opinion on things, I guess.
And they all stopped.
Yeah, they were all wanting. This would be a Stern kit. You can see it's stamped, folded over steel. Has a billet center, but they started to do some of this. This will fit your Sterns and later Segas. This is for Data East. So this is what the kit would look like for that. And the coils are back there. And then you have individual parts as well here, end of strokes. Their hubs are different than Williams. They have reliefs for the screws here. You got to use that. You cannot use a Williams hub, which is totally circular. It's the same dimension, but you have to have these hole reliefs in the hub itself.
Or it'll be in there crooked.
It won't work, yeah. Well, you can't fit it in there.
Or you can take a pair of dikes and cut it so that it's...
Also, end stops are different. You can see the hole diameter is way different than Bally Williams.
Okay.
You cannot make this hole bigger easily. This is a grade 8 forged part. If you go to use a drill on it, you're going to lose your drill. Because this stuff is hardened steel. That's why it takes the banging. This is not mild steel.
Right.
So you're not going to do it. Plus the plate is physically bigger. It's a 16th or 8th inch bigger.
Now if that breaks, you can just weld it back together, right?
Yeah, sure. Like we see.
I see that every day.
Anyway, that's an overview of parts.
Okay. Obviously we're going to need probably more than likely flipper bats.
These are for early Bally's. They're specific. Here you have more kits. Early Bally solid states. In this case, it's Flip 01 does, well, Steve wasn't sure. Early years.
Early don't know, yeah, through Flickr.
Through 12 of 74. Flickr is an early EM game. Flip 01s are very old kits. You notice the hub diameter is different and it's smaller. And their links are this steel
not very big.
No, a lot different. And then you've got Flip 04, you're coming into the years mostly people are familiar with. This is electronic, solid state. Rolling Stones through Truck Stop. So it's 80 through 88. They changed a bit. Their hubs got bigger. They're not the same as Williams. The top part's longer, bottom part's longer.
Yeah, so, and those are the roller ones and goofy things.
These are inlines, yeah. And then they have the brackets, the bell cranks, and then the end stops. It's a whole kit. You put in all of this. They even give you hardware. You put in end strokes, everything.
Nice. When
you rebuild, you use it all. That's a Flip 04. This is an 03. This is 75 through 80. This was a transitional period from EMs to solid states. Much like this kit, only they have fiber links instead of the inline.
Well, Steve does a nice job of putting those kits together.
Yeah, he does. And he also offers a mini kit. If you really don't want to do the whole rebuild and you just want to freshen it up, you get end stops and you get armatures is what these are called. You get hardwares and you get return springs. You don't do end stroke switches. You don't do hubs, you know. So he offers a little mini kit. They're a lot cheaper. Most machines are in need of this. If you've already done this and you play your game a lot, then you just freshen it up with this. That's the common sense about doing the mini kit over the full kit.
And the kits save you a lot of time in the field because you need everything. And what do you want to do? Try to go to the manual well, of course your experience tells you what you need, but you want to go through 18 cases of stuff.
Right, you don't want to bring 30 pounds of drawers,
including screws and hardware and all that other stuff.
Speaking of hardware, this is what most of these guys don't carry. This is all game-specific hardware to arcade machines, down to nylon stop.
Yeah, stop nuts. Okay, yeah.
So this is all unique and special sizes.
Little short 8s.
Yes, this is not just something you go to a hardware store and buy. These are all game-specific. You have screws with retaining lock washers on them. You won't find that in a hardware store. And these don't come off. You want to have this because if you're needing a lock washer, you're going to have to...
I stepped on it.
Yeah, you're going to have
We'll step on something else later.
You're going to have it retained. If you try to hold all this while you're putting it together, it's nice to have this retained. It's a little incidental that makes a difference while you're in there. So.
Okay, well, let's go see what we're working on. I think we still need bats. Do you have flipper bats on this truck?
Flipper bats are here.
Oh, okay.
I have a drawer here. I have unmarked. I've got...
Unmarked would go on what, a modern bally?
Yeah, unmarked is if you don't really
care. If you got a Theater of Magic or something, that gets an unmarked, right?
If you don't care that, like, all right, there's the W. Williams trademark stamped on it. If you don't care about that, the unmarked what the unmarked were made for is if a guy is on the road with parts and can't afford to have this,
the correct stuff.
This.
That East, yeah.
Capcom.
Sure.
Specialty. He could just use unmarked and just have two colors and move on. It's practical for a repair person that
maybe a route guy.
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't have the money to or care about specific. So in this case, we're going to use.
We're working on a Williams.
White W. And that'll be our Terminator 2.
We could put those Scared Stiffs bats on it. That'd be neat.
This is the second drawer.
Gottlieb's. Oh, yeah, Gottlieb's.
Gottlieb shells for System 80s and System 1s. And then this is System 3s. They have they break once in a while. The welded shaft assembly. These are Bally welded shafts. These are the shells for Bally's are here. They're different in Gottlieb. They're flat across.
So you got the black Bally's.
Yeah. And then these are early Williams and Stern. These are Stern. I have early Williams in here as well. Early Williams were changeable. They weren't always molded on the shaft, and that's what.
That's for what? That's a Sea-Witch? Would Sea-Witch take that?
Right. I have short ones. And I have color ones.
Those are aftermarket That never went on a game, did it?
No, these were made by several companies. Bay Area is one of them.
Yeah.
These are blood red for Dracula. Then I have your special old EM.
Yeah.
And more special old EM. And then I even have...
you got the banana flippers,
yeah.
nice.
This is what I was talking about for the Williams. It used the shell similar to this, of course curved for this, but it went in like this. And Stern copied this off Williams. They didn't copy Gottlieb's because Gottlieb's are way different. First off, the thing has holes in it and the shaft length is way different.
Sure.
But this parallels Williams in length and design. Williams was short to change from a changeable flipper and start molding like early Bally. You know, this is the same bat, only this is changeable and this is not. Bally started to do this instead of the extra cost of what it takes to do this kind of stuff. You know, it just takes too much extra money to make this when you could do that.
Yeah, have it molded and just,
yeah.
I'm sure.
That's how things have changed.
So trivia on the banana flippers, 2 games, correct? Only 2 games.
Only 2. Time Warp
and
Disco
Fever.
Yep.
As a player, I cringe at the thought of that flipper bat.
Yeah, they were just...
They were corny, gimmicky, I don't know.
Disco Fever was the first game to have it in 1978. Time Warp came out.
Should have been the last. Okay, we have everything we need to do this job?
Yep.
Alright, we'll see everybody back inside.
Stay here. I'll be back.
Okay, we're back in the shop. Here's the T2 playfield. It's out of a unit that we're restoring. Really, it's a salvage job on a barely salvageable pin. You know, some pins you go out, local people call you, right? They say, you know, I want to get rid of this pin. Will you come, you know, take it away or give me $50 for it? And you show up and one of 2 things is either wrong with it. Either it's in a barn or it's got this sticker on it.
Yeah.
The local curse. And right from a glance you can see that it's just nothing but problems. Wrong screw here. There's a deck screw there. In fact, Ray, would you take that apron off of there? Nice. And of course, once it has this sticker on here, you can.
Nice.
I missed. Get rid of that twat. I know that's not available, but we took care of that. Oh, and underneath here already, we've got what's this deck screws here. Oh, good Lord. Okay, well here we have some very nice looking. Well, at least they say W.
Well, they left those on.
Yeah, it looks like they look original. Probably are.
They had no parts, I guess, Mike.
Okay, well, show us the meat and potato side here and what we're doing. Okay, if I'm in the field and I'm trying to evaluate a pin that I'm looking to buy, or even, well, of course, when you show up on a service call, you evaluate what you're looking at as well. What is it that you look at? You know, flippers is one of the first things that you look at after line cord, because it's an interface. It's the most direct interface between the player and the game.
Yeah, that's right. I look at the wiring and what was done solder-wise, and I don't know what was going on there, but they should have replaced the coil. Somebody should have, anyway. This type of thing is what you're looking for. You don't want to leave it in there because it's poor work, and it doesn't really even have all the conductors on it. It's nothing that broke off during use either. These were never soldered on. That's what that is. It's what it should look like. The diodes and the solder work should look better than this. I don't know why that was left alone, but
Before you take that apart, don't you also what else do you look for? Looseness and in what places?
Yeah, you can check this. You want to see that there's no play between the armature and the bell crank link.
Because that represents wear and again
Right.
loss
and
of power.
this is slightly worn. You know, you can do it as your own reference. This is really
What the Lord is
well.
going on there?
There's probably stuff loose because hardware wasn't replaced and it either broke or came off. And this play adjustment up and down should be about 20 thousandths. That's about 80. That takes away from performance. This one is set about right. There's actually a gauge that was made years ago you can use. A little plastic gauge. But the rule of thumb is you just want about 20 thousandths. You don't want to go more than 30.
So snug and back it off a little bit.
That's all.
Okay. 3/8 wrench, I assume.
3/8, yep.
Take. Does that fit all? Well, that came out real easy. What generation of machine would be this setup?
Mostly 91 to 99 would be this type of setup. They changed it a little bit. First off, this game uses the bell crank return spring incorporated on the shaft. Later on they did away with that because it actually interferes with...
Short binds.
Yeah, they did away with it, and that's what this tab's for. And they give you a tension spring that goes on this tab, which actually hooks onto the bracket for here. There's a hole here you can use. So you could actually change this over and use this hole to return it.
Are we going to do that?
Yeah, you can. Since this bracket has the holes, you can do that. Some of these early games did not have the holes in the end of stroke bracket, so those are the ones you cannot. This has the holes, and you hook it on the end and go out to the tab.
Yeah, you can see that
They folded the tabs back.
Yeah, the tabs are actually even there.
If I don't use this, I take these off. I don't leave them on there. You don't need it. There's a real thick washer here. You don't need to leave the steel on there. And I don't fold it back. You just don't need it. You take it off. But you have to take your nut off. That's a little extra work. What they've done, though, aside from that, is they've got away from having to need the Allen wrench to hold this end, which is very hard when the thing's together because you can see you can't get to it. You actually have to put it in here. Position your flipper up top, put it in here, and then tighten this up. It's very hard. They did away with that. This is a welded washer onto the end of the shaft, and then you just turn this. That is self-retained with a little cutout there.
Nice. So that's an aftermarket.
New generation.
That's an aftermarket improvement. Nice.
Yep.
These aftermarket parts are really making it so that we're capable of saving a lot of this stuff. And, you know, that by itself doesn't save anything, but the totality of it makes the job doable.
It's easier in the field to do work, yeah. You still need your Allen wrench to take this end off, which is the end stop for the flipper armature.
I can imagine what we're going to see here.
They usually get pounded and they're dished. Some of them even break the stud off and they're loose. You see this dish shape, that means that's worn hard over the years. Well, you lose the height too. You lose the height, plus this gets dished. And
what's that cause?
well, it generally dumps dirt down in there, and it also causes the flipper to go too far.
Oh yeah.
If it goes over center, then it'll bind up, but if it keeps pounding that, it actually breaks the rivet on the other end. And it will also mushroom this metal out as it's hitting this. It makes it bigger, and sometimes they don't even come away from the sleeve.
Yeah, they wedge themselves in there.
Right.
So, yeah, as a player, again, walk up to a machine, you you're playing, you hit the flippers, and the left flippers, you see it's going up, you know, 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch beyond the right flipper. That's probably somebody replaced one end stop and not the other.
Next we get into coils. Besides from the ugliness of that, as long as it's functional, I suppose you could tolerate it. But the health of a coil is determined by the sleeve. They do give you separate sleeves in the kit. If you're just wanting to rebuild without coils, I hardly ever do that because the coils I find are generally not acceptable to leave in the game. They give you extra sleeves in that kit, which you can use if you have a good coil. The sleeve should push out by hand, and you shouldn't be able to have to pry it. What this means when this sleeve tightens up like that, that means that this plastic spool has now been shrunk by the windings, which are right here. All a coil is a bunch of windings. This is a 2-field coil. That's why you have 3 terminals. The power winding is inside of this winding. This winding is the hold. This is a flipper hold winding. When these get exercised through use, they contract and expand, and then that shrinks against this. And then if this shrinks enough, the armature will not go in the sleeve very free anymore. It'll bind because that is getting smaller.
Sure.
So you lose performance and power, and of course the coil health is based on this.
Well, that's really is just a sign. I guess the other thing you could do is ohm it out and see where it stands.
But when you see one bind up the sleeve, that means this is it's like a tire. It's near the end of its use.
Sure. Well, the easy answer here is you're going through the trouble of rebuilding your flipper. Don't be a cheap jerk. You know.
Do the end stroke, because you can see that it's not in any good shape. People have left this in because it still happened to work. Pretty soon it will actually wear and break this right off, but this pitting, you're losing power through these points.
So on this unit, the power actually travels through that switch.
Closed switch, they're tungsten, and you can see the new points. Why not put this in? It's 50 cents if you want to buy it.
Yeah.
So if the problem with not doing the job right is cost, it's very minimal cost. Also, as this bangs on this end stop,
it does the same thing as
flattens this out, and this gets mushroom shaped. Well, when this gets mushroom shaped long enough, it's going to bind going through the sleeve. So there's a lot of reasons to rebuild and replace parts that are in this condition.
And while you're there, just do all of it and be done.
It's simple, it's easy, everything's all in one place. You don't have to run, you pull that kit, you sit here and you just do it.
Now, I'm frankly not interested about the condition of that other coil. I'm throwing it out.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't
I mean, I see that it's been done, but so what?
They even give you the rubber end stops in the kit, so you can put them in. They give you new hubs, they give you new hardware. There's very little hardware you actually use over again. What I usually do when I'm doing a kit, well, what I always do is take the plate off, and I like to wash this. I like to, because you have to take this off to get the hub and the other parts off, because there are nuts on the other end of this to retain the hub. And you don't just pull these screws out, the nuts will fall out. You need that, or else this will come loose. Just about like what happened here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what that hub looks like over there, actually.
All right, pull it apart.
So you see a lot of original hubs in the field too, because because the guys are too late, because you got to take off, like you said, the whole plate to get them off.
They wear. Look, it's circular.
Oh yeah,
and
that's shot.
You got a steel shaft rotating, plus it gets dirt introduced into it,
which becomes sandpaper to it.
Yep. So you have a worn, wobbly, like this. We didn't even take this out yet and look at it. There's supposed to be zero plate here. Some of this stuff does not occur during play, by the way. Some of it occurs because it was never replaced over the last 25 years.
That's shot. Throw it out.
Now this coil here has a healthy sleeve.
Yeah,
That's
it's been
what
replaced.
they should be.
I'm not impressed. I want to throw it out.
This is like a clamp, and it's supposed to expand back depending on how hard somebody leaned on it.
Kind of does sometimes.
You sometimes. You loosen your 3/8 and then you can rotate it and get it out. If you can't do that, you loosen this up further and you can
take your least favorite screwdriver.
Yeah, just add a gap in here, just twist it like this. And if you twist it, you can get it out. Because otherwise you'll be in there and you'll pinch your fingers and it's terrible to get apart.
Well, that one hadn't been out in a while.
Yep. Okay.
Wow. You're pretty sad.
This was probably broke and had parts missing when it was reconditioned, because that's unusual breakage, and these generally don't loosen up unless you leave one out. It's hard to say about it, but this don't break during normal play. But if you allow this to come loose or this is worn, it'll do this later on. I've seen it where they all fall out. But it's a reason, regardless of what happened, it's a reason to redo the kit and replace parts.
Replace everything. You're going to get your flipper power back.
Right. These are capacitors that are on the early games. They discontinued this after 91, 92, somewhere in there. And they determined that they don't need this cap. What this does is this holds energy, and it prevents these points from doing that, pitting like that. It's supposed to prevent early wear of these.
Okay, are we putting those back on?
Yes, you put them back on because the game was designed that way.
Right.
And these are the replacements. And you use a shrink sleeve on here to keep the bare wire, and then of course the kit even gives you the tie wrap.
Nice.
To put that back on.
Well, this one didn't have a tie wrap, so
No,
how do you know where it goes?
It goes here.
Okay.
In fact, it goes
That's it.
the wire under there, and you're supposed to tie wrap it. It's the right value, but it's a little too big.
Okay,
this
so
is
the
why you correct it. Doesn't matter what it is or where it came from. You want to correct stuff like this.
now, of course, your field work is different than what we do here in the shop. What I'm saying about throwing out this coil for a shop job, a machine that we're going to sell, I don't want to get a call 3 months later, even a year and a half later when it's out of warranty, and you go out there and you see that we replaced one coil and now the other one's shorted out and it blew the fuse and all that other creepy stuff. So
I will replace stuff like this.
I didn't even see that yet.
Well, you didn't look far enough. If you keep looking at this, you're going to see what people neglected when they did this.
That probably works.
Yeah, it does work, sure. But I don't like it. I wouldn't leave it.
Nope, it's broke now. But
This
like I was saying, in the
would
field,
wipe off.
in the field, you would leave that alone.
I would wipe this off. I usually like to use WD or something water and just wipe it off, clean it, make it look like I cared about it, and then I'd put the new sleeve in it. Yes, I would. I wouldn't waste people's money on parts that are really not necessary. I would do that. This I would replace.
Sure. So, step by step, just give us an overview of what we're going to do here in the break. What's your plan of action here?
Well, do one side at a time. Do this side first. Take off the 8 screws that hold the plate on. Take off these 2 screws that hold the end of stroke. Save the little bracket on the back, the nut plate, and the screws because they're special, length and diameter. And then you would take the assembly out, and it would hang with the coil, and then you'd wash the plate, replace the hub, replace the rubber end stop, which just pries right out.
I've seen games that's missing.
Then you would put your new hardware on, and then after you wash it, put your new hardware on, and then you would replace the coil, end stop, and bolt on the EOS switch, and then you do your soldering after all that is bolted on, because you can attach all of it, and then it's easier to do everything in place. Rather, you don't want to solder a coil hanging like this; it's too hard.
Yeah.
So if you're rebuilding this, you put everything all back together, then you do your soldering after you bolt the plate back in, then all you do is put your flipper bat back in.
Okay.
That's the correct way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it.
Sounds like a piece of cake. That takes about what, 5 minutes?
Yeah. No, flipper rebuilds can take about, if you're experienced with them, you can do a pair in a half hour to 45 minutes. If you're not, you might need 2 hours. And you have to have all the stuff set up with you if you're going to be running around and going back and forth to your service shop or your truck or whatever for parts. Then
Your
it can
used
take
parts
longer.
pile.
Yeah, you have to have everything set and ready.
Okay, so we'll break here. We'll come back for a final assembly on, I don't know, maybe the first flipper, maybe the second. We got to go deliver that haunted house.
It is suggestible to work with a magnetic nut driver. If the machine's in the game, you're going to be leaning over it.
And you're going to drop a screw somewhere where you can't get to it.
It will fall somewhere, and you
Tell them your trick, Ray. When you drop a screw, what do? This is important.
what you have to find it.
Well, before you find it,
It will go somewhere bad.
what do you do when it's falling?
You look where you just look right away
And
where it's going.
you don't look in the area. You actually have to watch it.
Right, you
It
gotta
took me-
watch it as it's falling.
That's the stupidest trick I ever heard, but it works. Your natural instinct when you drop something is to look where you think it's going to end up.
You know, follow it, and
No.
you'll find
Yeah.
it right away. Working on office equipment for 30 years taught me that, because office equipment is more miniature than this stuff, and it's electronic and mechanical. It lends itself to be similar. That's just a technique that you learn. That has nothing to do with the coin-op industry.
Well, you told me, and it works whenever I manage to apply it.
Yeah, it'll save you some time because there's too many places. And
It never goes the way you think it was going to go.
yeah, and you can shake it and blow it with air, and it won't come out. It could be caught in a wire bundle. Who knows? Generally, it'll go somewhere bad.
Yeah, you'll find out where it went when you blow the corresponding fuse.
Yeah, or transistor.
Sure.
These just unbolt, and these are the nuts. They're 5/16.
Okay.
And you can see why I replaced the shafts. They definitely wear
That thing's
out.
whooped.
Yeah, they wear out inside and they wobble. What happens to them is they don't wear in a circular pattern. They wear in an oblong football pattern, because the load on the flipper is generally mid-stroke when you're hitting a pinball. Well, that's always going to load a certain part of this. And then that's why they're going to wear oblong, and that's
Sure.
that's where you get your resistance.
And it'll naturally be biased one way or the other just because of the way
Right,
the
so
assembly's
you'll
made.
want to put a new one in, and you're going to gain years of strength back getting rid of the dirty oblong hub.
Nice.
That's why they give them to you in the kit.
That's why I don't play in that league anymore. I can't stand those worn out games. Okay, we're going to cut away. We're going to come back on final reassembly of this.
I'll be back.
Okay, we're back from delivering the haunted house, and what time is it anyway? Show them where we're at here. We're going to finish one flipper for everybody so they can see what, we can all see what it's supposed to look like. Show us where you're at, Ray.
This is it done. Soldered on my EOS capacitor. So all I got to do is go to my flipper switch control here and 2 points here. And your hardware is done. Plates washed, all of it's new, ready to go.
Okay, let's drop it in, solder it in. Then call it a day. Does anybody else in this business work 20-hour days, 7 days a week? Anybody else in this business work 2-hour days, 3 days a week?
All I'm doing here is cleaning the wood in the area. It makes it a little cleaner.
Of course, we'll do that as we go along and do the rest of the machine.
Just makes it look like you're in here and did something. To make it a little cleaner. Doesn't mean anything, it just looks nicer.
So you did the more modern spring return on there.
Yeah, I don't really care much for those other ones, although they're okay. When that's the only one you can use, but when you have a crossover new style plate and it has the holes here, that's great. This was a transitional year for that. Some of this production might have went this way instead of this way. And as you can see, they use it throughout the machine anyway. It's on your up kickers, your slings. They don't do this. They always do the torsion spring, but it's just a matter of choice, you know. But these aren't used as often. This is, so this is a more reliable return. And what I mean by reliable is these will break right in the center or down toward the end or both. Then you'll have a piled up spring and it'll bind against itself. And you won't know it because it's hard to look at while it's in there. So these will break. That's why they went to these. To get rid of the problem. Quarter-inch hex. It's nice to have a magnetic. Because if you're working in a machine, this is not going to be at this angle. It's going to be the other way. So you're more prone to drop a screw.
Yeah, I hear a haunted house in the background.
Yep, it's ready. We're going to get it done and ready for show. The other one's gone.
Just a quick update for everybody there. We were doing two at the same time. One got finished and the other one got stalled at 90% done since one got finished. And since we delivered the one today, we put boards in the other one, plugged it in to see where it's at, and it's pretty close to done. It's out there running in the track mode, and yeah. If we stayed till 3 in the morning, we could probably get that thing done.
We're just going to put this on to show you the rest of what you do here, because this playfield on this end is not ready.
Yeah, we'll be obviously taking everything off of there.
From the step here, you want to set your flipper angle based on the in-lane guide, and that's where you set it. These guide pegs can be a rough guide. They should line up with the end of the rubber, and then that'll give you a straight down here. But you still have to adjust this, or else you're going to have ball hop, and that's annoying to players, because when a ball gets to the end here and hits this, if it's not perfect across, it'll hop as much as a quarter to a half inch, and then you don't know where to hit it, because it's like a free air. Although the ball's on the table, it's like a free air shot. You just whack at it. You don't have it doesn't roll down to where you want, because it's missing some of the strike point, and that's where your angle shots, your back shots are. And that's kind of important, and most people don't even do that tune-up. And it's relatively simple based on this and this to get the ball in.
Yeah, you just run a straight edge down the end lane is what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just set it up, you know, as straight as you can.
This point here is controlled by loosening the screws and going up and down to get your angle right here.
Yeah, sometimes you'll have to move those a little bit if you've got wear here on the end lane. You may have to shimmy these over a little bit just to get it to play right.
But it's worth doing because it's marked difference in play.
Sure. Okay, we're at the end of this thing. Ray, where are you going? Back over here and talk to us. Where are we at? And what are we showing them here today?
I'm back.
This is the one to do yet. This is what the rebuilt one looks like. All you have to do at this point is put your wiring back on to your end of stroke switch and your flipper coil. And the first step in this case, since these have been poorly done, is to, and what I mean by that is most of the conductors are missing out of the strands here. I mean, half of them are still in there. That comes from use, and also from when somebody did it originally, they didn't solder all of them back on. They just put on like they did here. They just unsoldered it, put it back.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to unsolder it and put it back?
Right, and then you can keep...
No, we're not.
No, you cut them. You got to keep your wire order, or you'll blow a fuse right away, because the diodes only go one direction. So some of them have dual wires on. We'll start with this end, and you cut it off back as close as you can to get all the strand conductors. And you're going to want a pair of wire strippers. And for a double wire, you're going to go back a little further than a single wire. The reason for it is you want to be able to twist them together, because it's too difficult to hold both wires on there while you're soldering it. So you twist them together. You have your flux and your solder. Heat the wire up, feed the solder on it, and you want to leave it with a little extra on it without dripping. And then you go to this and you tin this. That's what it's called. So you pile up some on that, and then once these are together, you don't need that kind of length. You cut it off. Because too long is sloppy and it hangs out. You want to solder it close, just about like this here. And that's what you should do.
Great. Soldering is fun.
To get good takes practice with it, that's all.
I got to tell you, I was intimidated by a soldering iron when I started with you.
It's hot. They're 700 degrees. They're your average pencil iron. Longer it stays on, the hotter it gets. Now this is a single wire going to the end of stroke. You only want about that much off. You see people do this, where they have too much hanging off bare, and it's just sloppy looking. You don't need that, because the bare without the vinyl on it serves no purpose except to short. You want to keep your vinyl close to the termination end. It's just it doesn't mean anything performance wise or anything, but it's just a nice practice. It's sort of
well, if you're going to do it, you know, be neat about it.
and you also want to you also don't want to leave the strands like this. You want to twist them, because when you go to solder it, they're going to go every which way. So you have to twist them, because when you heat this up, these strands are going to get more flexible, and they're tiny, and they're going to flare out, and you're not going to be able to pile enough solder on to make them tight again. Well, if you strand them, they won't unwind, and it also looks nicer when you go to put it on, and especially in hard to reach areas. These two are the end of strokes. I already pre-tinned those. That's one. And the other one. Okay, that's the end of stroke.
Well, that one really is hanging on by a thread.
Yeah. reposition this one because it's in the way of the other coil. Usually you don't take more than one apart, and then that way you don't have a problem with that. And then once you have to take one back off to redo whatever you missed or whatever you're not happy with, you want to re-tin it. And re-tinning it puts flux back on it, and it makes it easier to go on. Because in close areas like this, you have to have plenty of flux so it sticks, because you're dealing with high heat. And it takes a while for this to cool off, by the way. So don't go lifting off your soldering iron before you get it cold. And this one here is by itself on the center terminal. You can see by here. There's a dual wire on one end, the center, and then this is the other end of the flipper. You don't want to mix these up because they go certain places on the flipper control board and you'll blow a fuse when you go to use the flipper. Okay, so you got all the wires on except for one. That's it. It's also not a good idea to use the plug-on connectors on these.
Yeah, see, they're kind of built for them, but
toward the later production of Williams, they did start using those, but they regretted it because they get loose and they don't hold on to the terminal. Soldering is really the only way. This mechanism goes through a lot of bangs and vibrations during play, and they get loose and fall off. A lot of times even the wiring breaks itself.
well, we see that in a lot of locations, like Gottlieb flipper buttons.
Right. If you don't do this way, you're going to shorten the life of what it's going to be by a lot. These are all 18 gauge wires. You can see some of your working coils, they have 18 on one end and 24 or 22 gauge on the other end. These break a lot. Flippers are all consistently one size, and you should keep it that way. You shouldn't use thinner wires on this end here for the end of stroke. You should keep it at a 16 gauge or 18. It depends on the vinyl. Some of your vinyl coating is deceiving. It will make the wiring look thicker inside, but when you go to strip that, you'll tell what it is. There's really nothing mystic about it. You just want to keep your wiring consistent. Sometimes you'll see these have been replaced so many times people will throw the original wiring away because it's too short, and they'll put this in. You should keep it the same vinyl diameter to be consistent with it, but this is the correct way to do a flipper rebuild from beginning to end. It's sort of an advanced repair or maintenance issue in machines because of the mechanical and electronic finesse you need to do it. I make it look easy with the soldering, but these wires get hot. Some people can't hold these until they cool off like this. You're dealing with 100 or 2 degrees here, maybe 300. So some people will choose to hold it with a pair of pliers or something, or tweezers, because you can't. But you can't put the wire on and put the soldering iron; it'll fling away because the wiring is tensioned. So you have to hold it close to the end. So you have to tolerate heat.
Well, it looked easy.
After doing so many, it does get easy.
So, well, thanks for taking us through that.
You're welcome.
There goes that jukebox on autoplay again.
Yep.
What are we going to show them next week, Ray? We haven't scripted this. I have no idea. What might be interesting? What do you got for us?
You know, I'm thinking lamp sockets.
Lamp sockets.
It's a simple thing, and controlled lamp sockets are important to gameplay because they tell you where you're at in the progress of your game. And lamp sockets corrode, oxidize, go bad. They get loose. If they get loose enough, we'll show you what that means. They will blow a fuse, and you'll be searching and putting fuses in trying to find something like this.
You're staring at that Sea-Witch playfield, aren't you?
Yeah, because I put a lot of them in it already. Sea-Witch, as all the other old Sterns, have poor quality sockets, and they were bent back so many times through use that they go bad, and we're going to show you what that's about. It's a simple, inexpensive way to fix your problem. All shapes and sizes of lamp sockets are available brand new. Do not use used ones because you're going to be doing the labor twice, and it's a waste of time. So put new in, and we're going to show you lamp sockets.
Okay, very cool. Well, go get them, Ray, and thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next week. Tune in Sunday for the new pin vid. I think we're gonna post the roller disco again in high def. We reshot that one, so it's ready.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks for watching.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.
Join the circus.